Michigan is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise today in opposition to H.R. 3898, the Permit Act. But I rise for so much more than simply to oppose this bill. The Clean Water Act was enacted into law 50 years ago at a time when our rivers were catching fire. Great Lakes were declared dead. For 50 years, we have seen our water pollution decrease because of the efficacy of this law. The Clean Water Act was not a perfect bill. No bill ever is. I will be the first to admit it needs reforms, but this bill is not it. So while I rise today in opposition to this bill, I rise for so much more than that. I rise for the affordability crisis that is crippling the American dream. This bill would shift costs from polluters to rural America, tribes, and disadvantaged communities. This is personal for me back home in Michigan, where our families are already struggling with the costs of clean water. The Permit Act will exacerbate this reality and task our most vulnerable communities with bearing the increased costs of polluters. I say let's hold the polluters accountable. H.R. 3898 will also put these disadvantaged communities' public health at risk, jacking up the price of their health care on top of their utility bills. I rise for affordability. I also rise against the increasing contamination of PFAS, toxic forever chemicals, in our water. Communities throughout West Michigan are working to combat PFAS contamination throughout our rivers and streams. This bill would protect PFAS polluters who put our families in harm's way. The Permit Act will effectively place responsibility of treating toxic pollution, including PFAS, lead, mercury, and arsenic, toward the American taxpayer. Mr. Chairman, I also rise for states' rights. The majority is falsely claiming that certain states are abusing their authority, their literal states' rights, if they deny traditional energy projects in their states. States of Washington and New York have provided the committee with documents outlining that the projects they've denied would have failed to meet the state water quality standards, and that violated their state environmental policy acts and would have adverse environmental impacts. The GOP is ignoring that fact, and weaponizing false claims to weaken state and tribal authority. I thought my colleagues on the other side of the aisle were supportive of increased state control over regulation. The Permit Act would weaken the ability of states like my home state of Michigan to pursue more rigorous protections for local waters and make our communities more vibrant. I rise for states' rights. I also rise for real permitting reform, Mr. Chairman. We need it now more than ever to help increase the accessibility, the flexibility of permits that are issued for projects across the country, but not at the expense of our clean water. We have lost over 50% of our wetlands in the United States of America. That comes at an increased cost at a time when costs are rising and flooding becomes more frequent. Destroying just 1 acre of wetland will increase costs by $8,000 in additional payouts by American taxpayers through the National Flood Insurance Program. We simply cannot afford the Permit Act. Mr. Speaker, I yield back, reserve the balance of my time.